Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 2021 edition of Coffee with GGHK, Gay Games Hong Kong. Bring you tea, coffee, wine, depends of what hour of the day or the night you're watching us. If you're watching the online live version or the recorded version, welcome to everyone. My name is Betty Grisoni and I'll be your host today. At the time of the recording, we are very, very, very close of 500 days before the opening of Gay Games Hong Kong. I think it's 504 days, but you know, this is actually a milestone for us. I can never have imagined that we are going to be there. I have been actually working on this for so long now, almost 5 years. It's just amazing. I just want to say a quick hello to our guests tonight. Hello, everyone. Hello, we have Adrienne, Greg, Ken, and Amy, and they will introduce themselves in a little bit. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about Gay Games first. So Gay Games Hong Kong will be the first Gay Games in Asia. It will be held from the 11th to the 19th November 2022. So as I say, next year, 504 days. And the theme will be unity in diversity. There will be 36 sports, including very, very Hong Kong type sport, which will be dragon boat racing, trail running, that's kind of my little sport, and we're going to have a dodgeball and e-sport. We'll have a great opening ceremony as well as an amazing closing ceremony, a festival village, and a lots of art and culture event, 10 days of festival. It's a great celebration of love, diversity, and guess what? It's actually also going to be the 40th anniversary of the Gay Games. A little reminder that the Gay Games is for everyone, regardless of ethnicity, religion, age, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, or background. The event is now open for pre-registration. I hope everyone has been pre-registering. I'll give you a little bit more numbers a bit later in our talk, but it's quite amazing. We have so many pre-registrations. So, you know, you can actually go to our website to get more information and pre-register. We are www.ggHK2022.com. So that's pretty easy to remember. And I will talk a little bit later about pre-registration. So we are in June, and in June, pretty much globally, June is now known as Pride Month. So happy Pride, everybody. And Greg has the confetti behind you. Happy Pride, happy Pride. I hope you know that Pride is to commemorate the Stonewall riots that happened, you know, many years in New York, and we celebrate June Pride because of the riots, but it's also now to recognize the impact of the LGBTQ community has had in the world. And for us at Gay Games, we have been pretty busy. If you have been following a little bit of the media or a little bit our social media channel, we have had quite a lot of public engagement, a lot of media attention, and all was very positive. So we just wanted to have a conversation about what Pride meant, and especially what Pride meant in the corporate Pride. So we have some great panelists. We have Adrienne Davis. Hello, Adrienne. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello, thank you for having me today, and thank you to all of those who have joined, whether you're joining live or joining in the recorded session after. My name is Adrienne Davis. I use they and she pronouns, and I'm Senior Program Manager for LGBT+ at Community Business. So we work with organizations and businesses on a wide variety of diversity and inclusion practices and policies, and I lead up our LGBT body of work. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. Thank you for coming tonight. We also have Greg Morley. Greg, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Betty, and thanks for asking me to be part of this amazing webinar, and especially on Pride Month. I feel honored to be here during Pride. I'll first start off by saying I'm actually a member of the Gay Games volunteer team, which is an awesome group of people, incredibly diverse and incredibly committed to, in 504 days, welcoming the world to Hong Kong. But I'm going to talk mainly today in my role at Moët Hennessy, where I am the regional head of HR for Asia, Oceania, as well as the global head of diversity, equity, inclusion for the company, and based in Hong Kong.
Great, thank you so much, Greg. We also have Amy. Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for including me into today's event. My name is Amy Tai. I head up the diversity and inclusion and the rest of the responsible business of Freshfields in Asia. We have a very big program of all of the above. Happy to talk about LGBT specifically today.
Great, thank you so much, Amy. And last but not least, Ken. Ken is part of the Gay Games team. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what is your role in the team?
Sure. Thanks, Betty. Hi, everyone. My name is Ken Leung. I'm now part of the corporate outreach team for Gay Games Hong Kong. So I'm local from Hong Kong. I see Hong Kong as my home. In my day job, I'm a market research consultant, so I work with brands to design and execute consumer insights and strategy projects. I personally have been involved in quite a bit of employee resources group work. So specifically, I've been trying to set up the first LGBT employee resources group in Asia for my previous company. I joined Gay Games Hong Kong earlier this year and have since worked with quite a few corporations and have learn a lot from them, so I could share more as we go into the discussions.
Great, thank you very much. And as mentioned today, tonight, this morning's topic is very much about what I like to call corporate pride and what it means for Gay Games, but what also it means for Hong Kong. And before we get to you, Ken, and I think this is something that you might actually understand as well. So I am not originally from Hong Kong, but I've been here close to 20 years. And before Hong Kong, I mean, I don't know, I think it's Pride Month is fairly new. We have our Pride and our big celebration later in the year. June usually is just too hot to have any parade. I mean, the Pride Parade in Hong Kong is in November. Pink Dot usually is in October. So June was a little bit quiet. It's something that we just mentioned here and there. But it's something that, and this is, I think it's the corporate, the brand have, and very much the global brand, the international brand have brought this amazing celebration months. Maybe Ken, you want to talk a little bit about this on a personal view. I mean, you're from Hong Kong. Do you feel like this is a little bit new?
Definitely. So 20 years ago, there was not as many rainbows around in June. So we now, like, you go to every corner of the shopping mall and everywhere there is rainbow, right? So that's something quite new.
I think it's good. And I think it's good. I think it's good. So let's just stay with you, Ken. So you're going to present a little bit what we do with our corporate friends and partner at Gay Games Hong Kong. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sorry, I'm muted. So I've got 2 slides to talk about the mission of the corporate outreach team, as well as why corporate should work with Gay Games Hong Kong. So I can talk more about how we work with them as we go into the discussions later. So if you go to slide 1, so the corporate outreach team was formed earlier this year. So we now have a small team of 6, and we came from different backgrounds, different industries. Compared to sponsorship team, which is all about money, corporate outreach team is all about love. Our goals are to raise awareness and create excitement about this world-class event so that everybody can participate. We raise awareness by facilitating discussions between corporations and Gay Games Hong Kong, using Gay Games as a catalyst for internal diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We want corporate employees to know what Gay Games is about. So it's about participation, inclusion, and personal best. We also want corporate employees to understand that we welcome essentially everyone, right? Like you said, Betty, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, identity, age, color, background, or race, whatnot. We create excitement by encouraging corporates to mobilize employee volunteerism, participate, or simply just spectate in sports and arts and cultural programs. We encourage everyone to pre-register early because we do have quota limits, right? Especially for those high-profile sports. Like
I'll be talking about this a little bit later, but I'll say pre-register, pre-register, pre-register.
We also support fundraising team in their efforts by connecting the team to our generous sponsors. So as you know, we are a non-profit volunteer organization funded by the community, participants, commercial partners. So our sponsoring partners actually help reduce participants' costs, so increasing diversity and inclusion at the same time. So if you could go to the next page. So why should corporates support Gay Games Hong Kong? So we actually see Gay Games Hong Kong as a golden opportunity that corporate should ride on to enhance and strengthen their diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. So supporting Gay Games Hong Kong demonstrates to not only your employees, but also your customers and your consumers that your company is in support of the values of inclusion and diversity that they care a lot about. In terms of business benefit, so internally, we know that diversity initiatives like Gay Games Hong Kong will help boost recruitment and talent retention. We know from research that employees who feel included in their company are 3 times more likely to feel excited.
Be yourself at work, right? I mean, I think that's
exactly.
just such an important concept.
Definitely. And we also know that 40% of candidates will just not consider job offer because they feel company is not inclusive. So externally, diversity initiatives like Gay Games Hong Kong helps drive business growth by more deeply connecting with the consumers who are very value-driven and care a lot about diversity and inclusion. So this is especially true for the younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennials, as the latest Chinese university research by Professor Sun also shows. So all these are especially important for Asia, right? So we know that we are like somehow behind other regions in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, even with multinational corporations. So there will be opportunity to empower employees and community in Asia who face more challenges than the counterparts in US and Europe. We know that a lot less LGBT employees actually came out in Asia compared to Europe and US. We also know from research that employees in Hong Kong feel that being identified as LGBTQ is a career hindrance and potentially impacting their prospects and development. So since the formation of the team early this year, we have worked with over 50 corporations and still counting, especially with the new connections over the June Pride month. So corporations are as excited about Gay Games Hong Kong as we are. We have worked with a diverse group of corporations, so mostly international, admittedly, but also local corporations. So these corporations come from different industries, so banking, legal firms, fashion brands, entertainment, transport, whatnot, and also at different stages of the diversity journey. So some of them have pretty elaborate diversity structures and policies already, such as having a head of D&I, domestic partnership policies, but some of them do not even have an employee resources group in place yet. So it's not just LGBT employee resources group, but not even like women or ELG for disabled associates. So this is the first time that Gay Games ever happened in Asia. So, and we believe that it will be historically significant. So we can talk more about how we work with corporations later on.
Great. Thank you very much, Ken. We're going to stay on that slide because I'm going to ask exactly these questions. So I'm going to first ask Amy. Amy, what does corporate pride for the LGBTQA+ community means to you yourself? We like to ask about personal stories here, but also to your company.
What it means to me is that we are here using this month to celebrate diversity, and especially LGBTQ+ diversity. But I hate to just limit that to the month. It's like I somewhat despise one day of International Women's Day, because every day we should be celebrating diversity in every way that we can. But it's good to focus everybody's attention. And when you are in a company, this is a really great time to get all your symbols out, do a lot of events, rally everybody together to, starting from making them understand what is Pride all about at Freshfields, what does LGBTQ+ inclusion means for Freshfields, but also how we can engage with the community out there as a firm. So it's just a good time of the year just to do a lot of stuff. But like I said, we shouldn't cram all the activities into this month. We should spill that over into the rest of the year.
And Amy, you're from Hong Kong, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So I guess you have also seen some changes, have you?
Definitely. I've seen changes even within Freshfields in the time that I've been working here. So I joined Freshfields in 2015, and back then we don't really talk about it. We had a small network. I remember people even whispering about LGBT inclusion in the corridors and wondering, why are we whispering? And I remember being told that there were colleagues who questioned one of our female partners who are a major champion, questioning her why, as a mother of young children, why would you go and champion something that clearly has nothing to do with you? And I think that gave her extra impetus to continue to champion this as a leader of the firm. And fast forward to now, this is part of business. Clients speak to us about our inclusion efforts, including LGBT inclusion. We join up with clients, join up with various organizations out there to carry out the message. So this has really progressed very fast, and now everybody has a rainbow logo to adopt this month, and we have the background to use. I mean, this is all new. We scrambled to put together a background last year, and this year there's a major campaign to just get all the corporate image and branding out there. So as a firm globally, we're also changing quite a lot. It's not just Hong Kong.
Yeah, and have you been organizing internal events, external events, or I mean, as you said, for you, June mark, you don't really like just marking a period, but you mentioned that you have been organizing things, and is this something that people get excited about within the company?
I think one of the positive that comes out of the whole pandemic is that this year the whole firm is really joined up in our events. Because I remember, okay, let's forget last year. Everybody had so much uncertainty, we really couldn't deal with anything else. But the year before, I remember I was actually in London, and I could see all the Pride celebrations, and we have 2 offices in the UK, and each office was just focused in their local Pride parade and celebrations of their networks locally. as you know, in Hong Kong, some firms do more, some firms do less. And in the past, Freshfields in Hong Kong had done a bit less because we tend to focus our attention in May during IDAHOT. We tend to push out messages about, being inclusive and all that during IDAHOT. So we tend to
fight homophobia.
Yeah, so we tend to do less in June, or we tend to like look from afar and really be very envious of the parades that carry on and all the photos.
That's what I mentioned before. In Hong Kong, we're not doing any parade outside.
Like you said, it's too hot, right?
Very hot, very wet. Just for the outsider watching us. Okay, fantastic. So you've done a lot. I'm going to ask the same question to Greg. I'm going to repeat the question, Greg. What does corporate pride mean to you personally, and then to your company, Moët Hennessy?
So I'll quickly say what it means to me. And the first time I went to a diversity training was a long time ago. And between then and now, it was very slow to see the progress. Between last year and this year, the progress in visibility of pride of LGBTQ employees and customers has just really taken off. And that's where I think that the real change is happening. Moët Hennessy is a company. I work for Moët Hennessy, and we're a company of 10,000 employees. Half of our employees are sales and marketing, professional finance, HR, and the other half work in vineyards and distilleries and production facilities. So it's, we distribute our brands globally, and it makes it super complicated because we're not talking just to one group of employees. We're not talking to one group of customers and consumers. It's extremely diverse, and the cultural context is important to understand. So I would say for us globally, pride means more than one thing, and in some places it doesn't mean much of anything yet. So we're on a journey of trying to bring the company forward, but do it in a way that people can sort of digest and bring it to life in their own way. So what we've done is taken a bit of a top-down and a bottom-up approach. The top-down is the senior management talk about diversity and inclusion all the time. They're involved with all of the forums that we're doing this year for this month. They have a huge advocacy around our diversity and inclusion agenda. And that's important because when people see the senior management doing it, then it's a lot easier for the rest of us to get people involved. And what we're doing this year in the US, which I'm super proud of, is of course very different than what we're doing in the UK or in Australia or in China, or even someplace like Malaysia, where yes, this year we will celebrate Pride in our Malaysia office. So we continue to focus on, okay, what's the end in mind of all of this celebration? And the end in mind is to, be more inclusive, create safe space for our employees, and our customers so that they can fully participate at work and ultimately enjoy the experience that is what our company is about. So whether they're drinking a Hennessy or a Dom Perignon or a Belvedere, then they can believe that those products stand for something good and safe and inclusive.
Great, thank you very much. And do you feel like, Amy, do you feel like June is too short of a period, or do you think it's pretty good? It's a pretty good start.
I'm absolutely with Amy that Pride is a celebration. Pride is about celebration and inclusion, and we should be doing that every day. It just so happens when we do it in June, it's a bit more colorful.
Great, and I can see your background, very, very colorful indeed. Adrienne, I'm going to ask you the question. So your company is a little different, but I'm still going to ask exactly the same question. I'm going to repeat again, just for those who have missed it. So what does corporate pride means to you personally and to your company?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with what it means to my company. So what it means is a darn busy month that we have every June. I think this is our busiest period, and that's because there are so many organizations that are really keen on getting community partners in the doors and making sure that their employees understand what LGBT plus inclusion means. So that might be, you know, one-on-one sessions, it might be panel discussions about things that are more complicated and sharing stories. So that's really, really great. But it's always better if that comes along with a deeper and wider conversation about what are you doing year round. You know, I don't want to just talk to you during Pride. I don't want you to approach us once a year and say, oh, can you come in and do a one-on-one session for us? I want to make sure that it's actually being talked about year round. You know, it's not a last minute thing that you just do for Pride Month. And as far as what corporate pride means for me, personally, you know, I'm early careers, right? So the last job I was in, there was no corporate pride. I wasn't out at work. I wasn't in a position where I could really take advantage of that, and I had to be quite stealth. So what it means for me now is, you know, it's an opportunity to showcase stories. It's an opportunity to be who you are and what takes, you know, we're at work a long time, 8 hours a day if you're lucky. And so, yeah, corporate pride to me means it's a chance to showcase who you are, and it's a chance to really celebrate that part of you that makes you, you know, special. And it's an opportunity to showcase how companies care about their employees, and, you know, and have a party about it.
So you mentioned that community business, because you work for community business, is very busy this month. Any example of what I mean, you just touched a little bit, but I would like to know any example of what you do at the moment that you think is especially important in Hong Kong during this period?
Yeah, well, I think that the education that we do in Cantonese and in Mandarin is always really, really important. So I've been quite excited by how organizations have grown. You know, they're not just saying, can you do a session where it ends up being only their expats that come along to the session. They're doing things that are really looking to make sure that all of their employees understand what we're talking about around LGBT inclusion. And also we're having live sessions so that they can ask questions. You know, it's not just something for, you know, it's not seen as a Western concept that's being input into this context. It's something that's real for Hong Kong people, and you need to, you know, it's good to understand it in your local language and in your local context. So that I've been really excited about. I've also been really excited by how many organizations have realized that it's time to move beyond just talking about this is the basics, you know, this is the basics of allyship in the workplace, and are talking about, okay, how can we be better allies for our trans and non-binary and gender diverse colleagues? What can I do to make sure that I'm changing my language in my daily life to ensure that I'm being inclusive of those populations? How do I better access stories? You know, what do I do? I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I educate myself after this session? What can I do? What do I search? How do I do that? I've had people come up to me and ask, what, you know, recently I had a man come up to me after a session and he said, thank you, I'm non-binary. He said, thank you for sharing your story about being non-binary. How did you process this? And eventually he said, you know, my child has just come out as non-binary and I don't know what to do. What do you suggest? How do I start working through that? Which is really, really cool that happened because his organization at this session, and that's really an honor to be able to be a part of.
Yeah, I think this is great. Corporate conversation are fantastic, but we're also talking about people, right? Mm-hmm. And people's stories. And I'm going to, that leads to my second question. And Amy, you touched base a little bit on this, but because I've been here 20 years, I'm from Europe originally, and things there are a little bit different. Working for a global company, what difference do you see between, as I say, you touched a little bit, but maybe we can go deeper, between the US, Europe, Asia, and Hong Kong, and how people celebrate Pride?
I think if I look at my colleagues in the UK, celebrating Pride is so natural to them. It's part of, they have a big network, and there are, in their local cities, they're already, like in London and Manchester, there are already a lot of activities publicly that they can join up with. Like I said, the stores have so much merchandise, and you, everywhere you turn, there's Pride everywhere, flags everywhere. In Hong Kong, a little bit like what Greg said, it's moved slowly, but then it's picked up momentum. And so we are seeing more of that, which makes, you know, when your local culture is adopting that, it makes your what you do internally as employer much easier, because again, they are able to see the symbolism much more widely in Hong Kong and Asia. I always have to, sorry.
No, go ahead, you might, yeah.
I just want to always remind my colleagues in the UK, US, and Europe that, you know, we are the region where most of our countries, all of our countries in which we operate in, either do not have anti-discrimination protection for LGBT community. Same-sex marriage is not permitted. In some countries, it's even same-sex relationship is even illegal. So this is the background in which we are working, and as an employer, we have an obligation to protect our employees, and to be able to celebrate that diversity, but to be able to protect them and allow them for who they are when they are working with us.
Great. So yeah, so you adapt some of the programs, you adapt some of the messages.
I think we make it relevant in Asia. I think if you talk about Asia, it's everybody is in a different part of the journey. So we allow them to take on what it is most relevant to them. We don't push an agenda onto them. So in the early years, I think we make sure that to embrace pride and to embrace LGBT inclusion means color, fun, rainbow cupcakes, lots of celebrations, you know, the positive association of this subject. But I'm pleased to say that as years go by, offices and possibly more conservative cultures of some of these countries have gradually adopted conversations internally. So I'm really pleased to see some of my colleagues just on their own seeked out friends who are LGBT plus and ask them questions, and then bring some of those conversations back in their office, and they created a roundtable to talk about this. So I mean, that was a proud moment for me, when you don't have to push an agenda, but they've gone ahead to discuss this, along with the rainbow cupcakes, I'm sure. So I think
rainbow cupcakes are good.
Are essential.
Greg, I'm going to ask you the same question. As I say, you also touched it a little bit earlier, but I'm just going to ask you a little bit more in depth. And you know, you work for a global company, and how have you managed to actually present the same message, but maybe package it differently or talk about it differently? Do you want to talk about this?
Sure. Thanks for the question. And we have cupcakes too. So maybe cupcakes, we should all invest in a cupcake factory in May or June in Hong Kong. And we could all just put colorful cupcake tops. So much like what Amy described, we're taking very much a location by location approach, but we've set an aspiration globally that we want to cultivate a culture where we celebrate diversity in its most inclusive definition. So pride, in essence, can go beyond just the LGBTQ inclusion. It can also be others who want to be sort of part of that celebration part. You know, we'll ask the country that's slow in the uptake to change their benefits maybe in the second and third year, but let's try to get them on board. So this year we're hosting pride events around the world. I shared earlier, I was super proud of the US team, what they're doing. So what they've decided to do this year is rebrand their employee resource group, their LGBTQ employee resource group. They now call it The Bar. And why they rebranded it as The Bar, it's of course our business is wines and spirits business, but it also celebrates the origins of the LGBTQ liberation movement. And it's of course aligned with what we do. And so one of the things they've also taken the lead on globally is providing financial support to some of the world's most iconic gay and lesbian venues, which are struggling because of COVID, and many are going out of business. We've also taken, I talked a bit about our Dom Perignon. So Dom Perignon this year is in a marketing relationship with Lady Gaga. So for this month, we're investing resources into Born This Way Foundation, which is a foundation that's supportive of our community. So for many years,
I'm just going to cut you off here to make everybody feel very, very old. So Born This Way is 10-year old this year, just to make everybody feel old. So thank you very much, guys.
So, you know, for many years, the brands in our company like Veuve Clicquot are very synonymous and connected with the LGBT community and women's initiatives. So this year is really to branch out even on the commercial side much more broadly. Tomorrow here in Hong Kong or in Asia, for the first time, we will have 4 LGBTQ colleagues from around the region lead a discussion around this topic. It's really a breakthrough moment for us because we haven't done that in the region. It's the first time, and it came from the employees. So I'm super excited about this tomorrow. I seriously hope I can sleep tonight. I'm so excited about it because it's such, we did a run through yesterday, and the personal stories of these 4 employees is so compelling. And that's the story of, you know, 10,000 employees and customers and consumers. And so it's our obligation during this month and all year round, as we talked about, to continue to tell those stories and to shape thinking around our community and inclusion in general.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I think this is something that we have to remind ourselves. And, you know, we're here from Gay Games Hong Kong, but it is about the people. It's about, you know, employees, and for us, Gay Games participants. And you know, these are stories and people coming to Hong Kong for Gay Games and are coming from Hong Kong to Gay Games, but this is about people. Adrienne, you kind of a little bit of a different, because your company is between the public and the brands, but do you see a difference? And I think you're from the States originally, but you see a difference between local companies. When we say local companies, we could talk about companies from Hong Kong or companies from Asia or global companies. Do you want to talk a little bit about the differences you see?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. And so I think one of the major differences I see between major multinationals and large companies with holdings elsewhere is that those companies may have a path to follow when they're working on LGBT plus inclusion. So if I'm an employee from a company that's, you know, I'm based in the Hong Kong office, I want to start an LGBT inclusion program, all I have to do is pick up the phone and ring, you know, one of the places that already has a network. And I could say, hey, how did you guys do this? Do you have any templates? Do you have, you know, emails and things that I can get on? Can we get on? Can we talk? What do I do? How do I do this? So there's a pathway to follow. Whereas a lot of organizations here, when someone says, I want to start this up, how do I do it? They might actually have an HR person who says, yeah, great, go ahead. But you don't, how do you do it? How do you get that momentum? How do you get that broader support in a location that, you know, a lot of people might not know? Why is LGBT plus inclusion even important in the workplace? Maybe they've decided only to focus, you know, from a corporate level on women's inclusion in the workplace and haven't even started to think about other aspects of diversity. So there are a lot more challenges and barriers to start for people who are coming from smaller local organizations in education and in just the know-how. So I think you know, one of the great things about Hong Kong is that there are quite a lot of networks that you can take part in, and you can start to attend things like, you know, Pink Alliance and Pink Dot, and you can start coming to some of these corporate events, and you can ask questions. You can say, "Oh, Amy, you lead this, right? Can we get a coffee later? What do I do? How do I start? What's the deal?" And that's I think some of the big differences.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So let's now go back to Gay Games a little bit, and let's get to Ken. So Ken, you mentioned that you have been quite busy this month in participating in a few events. I mean, I say Gay Games. Do you want to give us a little bit of an idea of how did that look like, and what can brands do with Gay Games? How can they partner? And we're not, again, we're not talking about sponsorship here, even though we love to have that discussion. And if anybody is actually looking to support financially gay games, because we have some great sponsors, I'll talk a bit about it later. But but this is about partnership. This is about love. This is about information. So maybe Ken, you want to give us a little bit of an idea of how gay games and the corporate's partner and have
Definitely.
This
it's all about love, right?
Love
so
and
like
support.
I said, we work with a diverse range of corporations, right? So so the corporate outreach team has been pretty flexible in the way we work with them. So the key is to create programs that would not only create awareness and excitement for Gay Games Hong Kong, but at the same time also respect the company culture and where the company is in terms of diversity and inclusion journey. So
how's it look like? Can you just give us a very practical example? I mean, does the team come to offices, or how does it look like?
Definitely. So because of the pandemic, so most of the activities so far has been virtual. There are a lot of webinars, but we are resuming face-to-face meeting lately within legal restrictions, of course. So as a very, very recent example, so earlier today, just a few hours ago, we have worked with 2 sports brands on an inclusion in sports event where most of the 300 participants were actually online, but the speakers are actually live, right? Seated together in a conference room with not more than 50 people. That's what the legal restrictions are right now.
At the moment.
At the moment, right? So we tailor-make content of each event so that they remain interesting to the audience. We organize quite a number of inclusion in sports events, but we also arrange other topics such as inclusion for arts and culture. So Gay Games Hong Kong is also about arts and culture, right? We talk about social impact of Gay Games Hong Kong. There are also times when we focus on certain themes, right? So such as lesbians, such as trans, non-binary. So webinar is not the only option. So with a bank, we actually did a Zumba class with them.
A what? Class? A Zumba?
A Zumba class.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Very
good,
funky.
Good.
Followed by a concerted push promoting Gay Games Hong Kong, of course. A different approach was also taken up by Christie's, you may have heard, who linked up a basket masterpiece with Gay Games Hong Kong. You can actually watch the webinar on YouTube, right? So the basket painting was auctioned for, if I remember correctly, $41 million US.
Wow.
So that's like different format with different corporations, right? So if your corporation are interested to support Gay Games Hong Kong, and I would encourage you to do so sooner than later. So reach out to us through our website, GGHK2022.com, and we'll be in touch.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have been with the Gay Games team for a very long time now, before the bid, and seeing what we are doing, working with the different partners, and especially the corporate partners, is just mind-blowing and so interesting, and it makes me feel so proud. Now let's just talk about something that's like a little elephant in the room. I think we do have to mention this. And I'm going to ask Amy first. Some people, I mean, we hear some criticism, and I think we touched base a little bit on this before, and some people call it rainbow capitalism, some people call it pink washing, and it's just the fact that some company may just put a very, very nice rainbow flag outside or on their email signature or something, and then just don't do much about this, about anything else. What do you have to say? And let's keep it positive.
Well, I hope the comments are not directed at us, but I think everybody is on a journey. Everybody embraces LGBT plus inclusion in their own time, in their own way, and then they have to take into account local culture, and then also their corporate culture. So if at the very least they are putting up a flag, they have some rainbow merchandise out, I would say it's better than nothing.
I agree.
I think once you get onto that journey, you will, the sort of momentum we have seen is so powerful. The wave, the momentum will take them along. Hopefully that's the case. You're not going to get everybody across the line all at once, but everybody has to start at some point, and to be able to be visible to your employees, to your clients, to your customers that you are embracing this. I think it's a positive start for a lot of people. I would rather see that than having to be shy about putting up my flags, which are now all over the office, by the way, and they are all over the office all year round. It's not just for this month. Once again, I am stressing on this. And then the point is that, you know, we have a lot of employees who travel all around the world. Even despite the pandemic, we have secondees from other offices who come and spend a stint with them. So despite our global corporate message, I feel very strongly that these messages have to reach people who are new to us, who are here for a day, for a month, for a short time with us, that this is what we stand by. And we're no different sitting in Hong Kong than we are in London or New York. And so that it's not just a message that you see on the website, it's something we actually embrace locally. So I think these symbols serve different people differently, but to me and to us, to Freshfields, they embrace our culture and our inclusion very well, I feel. I hope.
Great. Thank you very much. What about you, Craig, your company? I mean, you and your company, what do you think of what's...
So maybe I'll answer first on behalf of my company, and then I'll give you my personal view on rainbow washing. So, you know, to be blunt, it's not just about a philanthropic approach, right? It's also about business. So we're not a company that's a charity, and we have to have consumers who are loyal and come back to us. And so talking to consumers where they are, especially in underrepresented groups, is super important for us. And so, as I said earlier, we want people to associate our products with something that's real and supportive and good. And that's important to us. And when we can do that, we can, you know, that can be the story. It also is interesting that rainbow washing as a term has come into the fore this year, you know, that we didn't really hear about it. And I think that that's actually a sign of progress. As we said earlier, like things have changed very quickly in the last couple of years. And I am with Amy that companies are in different places, and and sometimes struggle. When I talk to my colleagues and peers in the D&I or HR space, they just don't know how to start. So putting a rainbow on a signature line is a start. It gets some discussion going. It starts to move things in the right way. What I don't think is acceptable are companies who know better and support both sides. So they will support pro-LGBT causes, and they'll also support anti-LGBT causes. They know better than that. And given the exposure that some of those companies have had this year, negative exposure, and given the open source that the internet is, I believe that the rainbow washing term will be one that companies will be very careful about, especially those companies that, as I said, know better and try to play both sides of the equation. There's no right and other right. There's the right, which is to do with inclusion, caring for your team members, creating safe space, caring for your consumers. There's not another side that says, the people that don't care for them, I care for them too. So I think that that's something that that personally drives me a little bit crazy, and I hope that those companies will learn from the exposure this year, and we will have more time to help other organizations that are trying to get started.
Great, thank you very much. Adrienne, so your company is a little bit different, but maybe this is time for you to discuss the index a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll start by agreeing with the sentiments from Amy and Greg. I think that you know, some organizations will use a rainbow to start off, and the beginning is a good place to start, right? But I think we as consumers and we as, you know, responsible citizens need to be aware of, you know, is this organization one that's been established for many years? Clearly they're making a profit, and are they just trying to trick me and sell me something while they're not taking care of their employees, while they're not, you know, year-round supporting LGBT inclusion? What's actually going on, and digging a little bit deeper before we buy the cool rainbow whatever product. And I think that's part of what community business does. So you mentioned we run the LGBT plus inclusion index every other year, which is essentially a surveying tool that organizations can take part in, where organizations fill in information across 9 categories. And those categories include, you know, strategy, community interactions, what is your leadership team doing, what are your policies and benefits, and other things as well. And you fill that in, and then you give evidence, which is kept private. And we then look at that evidence and we say, okay, you say that you've got a benefits policy that is inclusive of LGBT plus employees and their spouse and also their children. And actually, when we're reading that, if I'm just reading that, that's not the case. Or you've actually, you as the HR professional have had to email somebody to then get confirmation that this is covered. And actually, that's not really as good as what it could be. So we use that to then show organizations, okay, you think you're doing really well, but here are the places where you might improve next time. These are the steps that you can take to make sure that actually what you're doing is inclusive. And since it's capped, it's only based off of what was in place over like the past 2 years. It's really looking to make sure that what you're doing is consistent. You know, it's not, oh, we did a rainbow event 4 years ago, or we had this policy in place 4 years ago. It's no, what are you doing on an annual basis, and what are you doing to make sure that the momentum keeps going? And you get, for example, if you've got an employee network that's been established for more than 3 years, it's higher points than if it's only been established for 1 year, or if it's global only, or if it's, you know, Hong Kong local, it's different levels of points that you might get. So that's one way that organizations can check and see, you know, how well are they doing overall, and they get sort of rankings, they get standards about, you know, how well they're doing. And it's also a way to track progress. You know, you can say, oh, you know, the first year that we participated, we got bronze standard, but look, the next year we jumped by 20 points and we got silver standard. And so this is the report that came out. These are the places that we can move forward. These are the kind of easy wins that we might do. And these are the things that are going to take us a little bit longer, because some things do take a long time, right? No organization, it'd be silly to think that any organization can snap their fingers and say, LGBT plus inclusion, and suddenly change all of their policies across the globe. That takes time, you know, and changing your insurance, what your insurance covers, it takes time. So it's about longer term commitment, and that can't be done just over Pride Month, and that can't be done just by having a single event. If we're talking about longer term sustainable solutions with organizations that are tailored for this region. So instead of just plugging and playing whatever you do in different places, great to learn from them, but make sure that you're also working in conversation with people who are living and working and have a stake in that area.
Great, thank you very much. I think this is very important work that excuse me, that you're doing, and I love the fact that all of our guests tonight have spoken about the journey. I at the beginning of this chat, I was talking about the journey of gay games, and it's also been a journey that started 4.5, 5 years ago, before the bid, and how our message might have changed, but it's still about unity and diversity, about love, about participation, personal best, and about the people. Okay, we're gonna go for a short Q&A. We got a few questions here. Someone has asked, and it's a very interesting question because it's basically what we've been talking about. So I just want to I want each of our guests to answer very, very quickly, maybe a couple of words. And someone just says, how can organizations with minimal D&I initiatives or experience start their journey? So what is the start? Maybe Amy, you want to mention just briefly, how do you start?
I literally started by going to another firm and taking the rainbow merchandise and started displaying my desk. That was how I started in 2015. I went to a bank. I asked them what merchandise they have. Can I use them? And then to show my colleagues, look, we can do the same. And this is the way you show inclusion and show yourself to be an ally. So yeah, that was how I started.
Okay, Greg. What advice? Good. What advice would you give this person that asks, how do you start?
Exactly the same thing. So the worst thing anybody can do is be frustrated in their own mind and get stuck. There are so many willing, generous people that we've all benefited from talking with about this journey. And, you know, like Amy, when I started in this role just even last year, I asked 3 people who were also global heads of D&I of other companies. And I said, if you knew 5 years ago what you know now, what would you do? Because we're at the start. And that became the foundation of our strategy. So ask for help. And when you ask for help, you will find a richness of generosity and love in the community and in the D&I community and HR community, leadership community, organizations like Community Business. There's so much out there that can help you get unstuck from the beginning.
I imagine Betty might be going to be next.
Well,
and I think, Greg, to just piggyback on that, I think D&I is really great because it's one of the few areas that you're not actually competing with each other, right? Even organizations that normally you wouldn't share what's going on internally, normally you'd keep secrets. D&I is one of those areas that you can actually cross-collaborate, and people are really willing and open to share what's going on. What did you learn? What did you learn over 5 years? What can I take away? That's one of the great things about working in D&I. I think the short answer that I would give for this person is put your hand up. It's going to be a little bit scary. You're going to have to be brave, and you're probably going to get it wrong sometimes, but that's okay. Put your hand up and start the journey, and you'll find that I believe that people will catch you along the way and help you out. So just get started. You know, you can add me on LinkedIn after. Anyone who's on this call can feel free. I'm always happy to have a chat.
That's exactly my journey, Adrienne. When I try to start the ELG in Asia, you know, you are one of the persons who I speak to. Right?
I remember.
I try to network and I read your inclusion report, learn about all the best practices, and very helpful indeed. So great, I agree with you. Like networking, talk to people. Amy, you too. You know, is really the first thing that I would recommend.
I talked to Amy, so.
Right, thanks.
Great. Another question that came up, and I think it's perfect. How do we contact Gay Games, the Gay Games team, for them to come and have a chat? I think you mentioned an email. Ken, do you want to mention it again?
Yes.
An email? How do people contact us?
22.com, or if you want to write me directly, that's okay too. Ken.Leung at GGHK2022.com. But I would say the easiest way is to go to the website and check it out and leave the message there.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. There has been a great conversation to have during Pride Month, but great conversation to have in general. I always say we need to have conversations. Thank you very much. So now we're going to talk a little bit about that pre-registration I mentioned. So we have over, let me get exactly the data. I have data. We have over 1,112 pre-registration from over 44 countries and regions. So that's quite an amazing thing. And we are 500 days to Gay Games. So why do you want to pre-register? Well, because you want to be there first. And some of the events sell out very, very first. So you have a priority access to the general registration, which will start before the end of the year. And it's also, well, saving a little bit of money. You only pay 50 Hong Kong dollars and you get the $200 Hong Kong discount. So pre-register, pre-register, pre-register. And how to do that? It's very easy. Go to our website, www.ggHK 2022.com. Google it, have a look at the pre-registration, have a look at what we do, have a look at your sport. We have 36 sports. We have some amazing arts and culture event. There's something for everyone. Pre-register. It helps us to know how people are excited about what we are doing, and it's also great discount. So pre-register, pre-register, pre-register. I also want to know, I mean, people ask us, how do we get involved with GGHK? So there's all these points. One of the things that you can do, and I've actually done it myself, even myself, I'm actually going to build a little bit of a trail running club in Hong Kong. So form your own sports team. Ask your colleagues. We're talking about corporate pride here. Ask your colleagues, ask your peers to just form a team. It could be basketball, it could be anything. So ask them. You can also volunteer for gay games. So I think Adrienne is also part of our team somehow, and Greg, of course. So there's lots and lots of things for people to do. We're waiting for a lot of work, a lot of jobs to be done. You can volunteer from Hong Kong. We can also volunteer from around the world, and Craig is in charge of that. So if you email to the volunteer email, he might answer, or a member of his team. You can also explore corporate partnership. So this is where we talk about sponsorship. We have some great partners at the moment, but we always welcome more. Or you can also become a champion in your own community. So this is persons that actually can be our eyes and ears within the community. So talk to people face to face about who we are and what we do. And so this is where Ken comes about, and if you send a quick message, he will reply. And as he mentioned, people from the GGHM can talk to your employees, or come to your firm, or to your work, and discuss how GGHK can actually help their employees. On a very basic share, go to our Facebook, go to our social media channels, share our information. There has been a lot of talk, and you're going to see a lot of things about gay games. So share, have a look, and share. And well, you can also donate. As I think Ken mentioned in his presentation, we are all volunteers, and we need a bit of funds. We need some money to bring this amazing event to Hong Kong. So you can support GGHK, and then you can support through your corporation. Thank you very much, everyone. I want to say thank you to our partners. I think we have a great slides that actually mention our partners and our supporters. This is, so thank you, our platinum partners, YouTube and Marriott Bonvoy, and our supporting organizations, and our education partners and community partners as well. I mean, this is the first time gay games are going to be held in Hong Kong. First time gay games are going to be held in Asia. This is the most amazing event. I mean, I have been to the last gay games in Hong Kong, in Paris in 2018. I think by next year, things should be much better. We'll have a great event. If you have any questions, you can go to our website, or you can actually email our hello at ggHK2022.com, and the lovely man who is going to wave now, his name is Dave. Dave is from our customer service team. Him and his team members will reply all your questions. We don't get any question unanswered, so this is part of our work. Thank you very much for the hard work everybody is doing within their companies. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Amy and Greg, for your hard work. And see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.